After the disaster at the Slim River, General Archibald Wavell took up command of the American, British, Dutch, Australian Command to protect the Southeast Asian region against the widespread Japanese advances. The defence line of Timor, Java, southern Sumatra and Singapore was imperative in this, and the naval and air bases would have to be held until the end of January at least, when reinforcements would be available. Meanwhile, in Malaya, the troops of the Allied Third Corps had been fighting and retreating for over a month. The land to the south of Kuala Lumpur was unsuited to defence, and the Corps would disintegrate completely if they were left in the front line. The only way to avoid this was a withdrawal to Johor, to allow troops to refit and to rest for the defence of Singapore. Although the strategy would allow the Japanese to easily take large swathes of land, the situation was desperate, and there was little choice left to the Allied command. With the 11th Indian Division falling back south, the Japanese captured Kuala Lumpur on the 11th of January, completing this phase of the Japanese 25th Army plan for the invasion of Malaya. Despite efforts to move Third Corps stores and supplies to Singapore, the collapse at Slim River had offered very little time for this, and much of it remained in Kuala Lumpur, where it was seized by the Japanese. Even with this setback, Third Corps were able to reach the positions allotted to it for the defence of Johor on the 13th of January. Meanwhile, the Japanese changed their plans for a seaboard landing in the light of the Allied retreat and the consequent capture of Kuala Lumpur. The lull allowed the 5th Infantry Division to rest on the 14th of January, while the Mukade detachment was sent south to gain touch with the Allies. This detachment consisted of a battalion of bicycle-mounted troops and a regiment of tanks, along with some artillery and engineer support. Over on the Allied side of the lines, the 8th Australian Division, newly arrived from Singapore, took over the immediate defence of northern Johor, while 3rd Corps passed through and prepared for the defence of southern Johor. Not only would the formation be rested, but this would also allow for the building of a new defence line north to the island of Singapore. Major General Gordon Bennett was handed command of what was named West Force. This consisted of the 8th Australian Division, 9th Indian Division and 45th Indian Brigade to handle the defence. Bennett had placed the 27th Australian Brigade astride the Gemas trunk road because this offered a good place for an ambush against any advancing Japanese forces. The Australians were covering several hundred yards of the road, with a company of the 2nd 30th Battalion covering the bridge in thick jungle. Artillery was also prepared to cover the road west of the bridge. At 4 p.m. on the 14th, the bicycles and the Mukade detachment reached the bridge. The Australians allowed large numbers of the Japanese soldiers to cross over the bridge before destroying the structure with previously placed demolitions. Unfortunately, the communications wires connecting the ambush position with the artillery had been cut, and no supporting fire was forthcoming. Despite this, the Australian infantry fire caused huge casualties on the unsuspecting Japanese troops, and within 20 minutes of the engagement starting, it was over, with the Australian soldiers withdrawing back to their battalion at Gemas. The next morning saw Japanese bombers attack Gemas, followed by Japanese soldiers attacking at 10 a.m. 4 miles west of the town. During the course of the day's fighting, the Australians put up a good defence, repulsing several attacks, then throwing the Japanese into confusion by a well-conducted counter-attack. The Australians had destroyed several Japanese tanks and caused a large loss to the attackers. However, it was clear that the Japanese were being steadily reinforced, and the position was becoming untenable. In the evening of the 16th of January, the 2nd 30th Battalion was withdrawn to the 27th Brigade's positions covering Batu Anam. The Australians had taken 81 casualties, causing around 1,000 casualties on the Japanese infantry and also destroying 6 tanks. The stiff resistance west of Gemas forced the Japanese to rethink their tactical situation, with the 9th Infantry Brigade ordered to attack the Allied units at Batu Anam, while the 21st Infantry Brigade was sent to attack Segamat. The engagement at Gemas was an Allied tactical victory due to the freshness of the Australian defenders and the use of ambush tactics. Despite this brief glimmer of hope, the Japanese pressure ultimately decided the day.